While the world was distracted by recession fears, the Philippines quietly became Asia's construction superpower. What you're about to see will make Dubai look like a practice run. $180 billion. That's what's being poured into concrete, steel, and ambition right now across 7,641 islands. But here's what nobody's telling you. 3 of these projects could fail spectacularly, and one might just change global trade forever. The next 10 minutes will show you which mega projects are real, which are fantasy, and why international investors are either running towards the Philippines or running away. If you want to understand where Asia's headed, you can't miss this. Let me start with number 10, and I guarantee it's not what you're expecting. The Mindanao Railway. Now, before you think this sounds boring, let me tell you about Maria Santos. She's 67 years old, and every time she wanted to visit her grandchildren in Davao, she spent 14 hours on buses that broke her back and cost half her monthly pension. That journey, repeated millions of times by millions of Filipinos, is exactly why this railway matters. 2,000 kilometers of track connecting Mindanao's entire island network. $7.2 billion, mostly from Chinese loans at 2% interest. Compare that to the World Bank's 4.5%, and you start to understand why the Philippines said yes. Construction started in 2023, completion projected for 2029. But here's what they're not showing in those promotional videos. The debt-to-GDP ratio is climbing to 63%. Economists are using words like infrastructure trap. 340 hectares of protected forest being cleared. Indigenous Lumad communities displaced without proper consultation. The government claims the economic benefit will be 15 to 1 return ratio by 2035. That means for every peso spent, the economy gains 15 back. If that's true, it's brilliant. If it's not, the Philippines just mortgaged its future for a railway that might never pay for itself. That railway might connect cities, but project number 9 is literally connecting the Philippines to the rest of Asia, and that's where things get controversial. The Luzon Economic Corridor. This isn't just construction, it's America's countermove to China's Belt and Road Initiative. The United States, Japan, and the Philippines signed the agreement in April 2024. $25 billion committed. High-speed rail from Manila to Subic Bay. Semiconductor factories. AI data centers. They're transforming Subic Bay, a former U.S. naval base, into a technology manufacturing hub that's supposed to rival Taiwan. Roberto Chin understands what's at stake. He's a Filipino-American engineer who spent 15 years in Silicon Valley, working on projects you've definitely heard of. In 2024, he moved back to the Philippines, took a 40% salary cut, and told me, "I'm building my country's future." But here's the reality check. Only $3.8 billion has actually been disbursed so far. The rest is conditional on governance reforms, which is diplomatic language for, "We don't trust your corruption levels yet." I've seen drone footage of empty construction sites where factories were supposed to be operating by now. Critics are calling it recolonization through infrastructure. The government promised 200,000 jobs by 2027, but local workers lack the technical skills, so they're importing Korean and Japanese engineers. Filipinos are watching foreign workers build Filipino infrastructure with foreign money on Filipino soil. So America's building railways in the north, but in the south, something even more ambitious is rising from literal swampland. New Manila International Airport in Bulacan. Manila's current airport has ranked as the world's worst for 5 consecutive years according to Skytrax ratings. The average passenger spends 4.3 hours in queues. Missed flights cost the economy $890 million annually. The replacement costs $15 billion and it's being built on reclaimed land in Bulacan province. For runways, 100 million passenger capacity. The current airport handles 45 million passengers but was designed for 31 million. You can imagine the chaos. Construction is 40% complete as of March 2025, but opening has been delayed from 2027 to 2029. The original Malaysian consortium pulled out in 2023. San Miguel Corporation, better known for beer and food, took over. Yes, a beverage company is now building the Philippines' most important infrastructure project. And here's the thing nobody talks about. They're building an airport on reclaimed swampland during typhoon season. What could possibly go wrong? Ground subsidence has already been detected. Foundation redesign cost an extra $2.1 billion. Carlos Mendoza is a former overseas Filipino worker who spent 20 years as a pilot landing in Singapore and Hong Kong. He's training specifically for this new airport. He told me, "Finally we'll have something to be proud of." The airport is even designed to handle supersonic commercial flights, preparing for routes that don't exist yet. But an airport is useless without proper roads, which brings us to the project that's literally reshaping Manila's coastline. Manila Bay reclamation has environmentalists filing lawsuits and real estate developers salivating. The plan? Add 407 hectares to Manila Bay through land reclamation, creating a new Manila financial district. Cost, $40 billion over 15 years, from 2024 to 2039. Imagine Singapore's Marina Bay, but 3 times larger. The Manila Bay cleanup cost $1.2 billion between 2019 and 2023. Now they're covering it with concrete. 23 fish species indigenous to the bay are now critically endangered. Rodrigo Diaz, 54 years old, comes from a family that's fished these waters for 4 generations. They gave him $12,000 in compensation. His boat cost more than that. The flip side, 50,000 construction jobs now, projected 150,000 permanent jobs in the new business district. But 3 reclamation contracts were awarded without public bidding. Senate investigations are ongoing. Climate scientists warn that the reclaimed land sits 2.3 meters below projected 2050 sea levels. They're building luxury developments that might be underwater in 25 years. Yet pre-selling condos on reclaimed land are already going for $8,500 per square meter, higher than established Makati districts. But while Manila expands into the sea, the next project is expanding the Philippines' position in global energy markets, and it's powered by something most countries banned decades ago. The Bataan nuclear power plant revival. The Philippines built a nuclear power plant in 1984, spent $2.3 billion, and never turned it on. Completed under Ferdinand Marcos Sr., the Chernobyl disaster happened in 1986, and the Philippines abandoned it. Fast forward to 2024, Marcos Jr.'s government announced a revival plan in February. $1 billion for refurbishment. Context matters here. Philippines' electricity costs are the second highest in Asia at 22 cents per kilowatt hour. The regional average is 8 cents. That difference is killing manufacturing competitiveness. The technical reality, the plant has been sitting unused for 40 years. South Korean inspectors found 60% of systems obsolete. A complete rebuild would cost $4 billion. A brand new nuclear plant would cost $5 billion. And Bataan sits on an active fault line. Fukushima nightmares are driving massive protests. Elena Reyes is a nuclear engineer who trained in France. She returned to the Philippines specifically for this project. She told me, "Modern nuclear is safer than coal. We need to get over Cold War fears." The political calculation is simple. Nuclear could cut electricity costs by 40%. That's a massive vote winner. The government says it'll be operational by 2028. Independent engineers say 2032 at the earliest. Meanwhile, Japan and Australia are offering cheaper renewable alternatives. The Philippines has 120 gigawatts of solar potential that remains completely untapped. Energy powers industry, but the next project is about moving the actual products, and this one's got Washington and Beijing in a bidding war. Subic-Clark Railway and Freeport expansion. This railway isn't just moving cargo, it's moving chess pieces in the superpower game. 70 kilometers connecting 2 former U.S. military bases that are now economic zones. Subic Bay Port handles $45 billion in trade annually. Clark houses manufacturing facilities for Apple and Samsung. China offered $3.2 billion at 1.5% interest in 2023. The United States and Japan countered with $3.8 billion in grant-based funding. The Philippines chose the US-Japan package in March 2024. China's foreign ministry issued a statement of disappointment, which is diplomatic language for being absolutely furious. Construction is 35% complete. The operational date has been pushed from 2026 to 2028. It's a fully automated cargo system with AI-managed logistics, targeting zero human error. Jennifer Lim handled supply chains in Rotterdam for 10 years. She's now the logistics manager for this project. She told me, this system will be more advanced than anything in Europe. But here's what's not in the press releases. The railway is designed to handle military transport if needed. It's part of the US-Philippines Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Underground sections are built to nuclear blast standards, officially for earthquake protection. The railway is projected to cut Manila-Subic transport costs by 65%, boosting manufacturing competitiveness. Vietnam and Thailand are watching closely. This railway could shift regional manufacturing away from China. But all these projects combined don't match the scale of what's coming next, and this one's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about island nations. Panay Guimara's Negros Island Bridges. They're connecting 3 major islands with 25.3 kilometers of bridges suspended over some of Asia's deepest waters. The main span is 8.9 kilometers. That would make it the world's 4th longest sea bridge. Cost, $4.8 billion, entirely funded by a South Korean consortium seeking infrastructure export deals. The engineering challenge is insane. Guimara Strait has 4-meter tidal variations. Typhoon winds reach 250 kilometers per hour. Rosa Martinez is 72 years old. She travels by ferry to see her children 4 times a year because she's terrified of boats. Last year a ferry sank. 23 people died. The Philippines averages 4.2 typhoons annually hitting this exact region. Foundation work started in January 2024. Completion is projected for 2030. 3 islands with a combined population of 8.7 million currently function as separate economies. Negros produces 60% of the Philippines' sugar. The bridge cuts transport costs by 55%. Guimara's grows the world's sweetest mangoes. Tourist numbers are expected to quadruple. I spoke with the Korean chief engineer. He told me, we built Incheon Bridge in a typhoon zone. This is twice as challenging. Here's an environmental win. The bridges will replace 47 ferry routes, cutting maritime carbon emissions by 890,000 tons annually. Land prices in Guimaras have increased 340% since the project was announced. And here's something that leaked from defense planning documents in 2024. The bridges are designed to be destroyed in 90 minutes if there's an invasion scenario. 3 islands becoming one economy is impressive, but the top 3 projects are operating on an entirely different level, starting with one that's rewriting the laws of physics. We're only at number 9, and already you're seeing why global powers are fighting over Philippine construction contracts. The next project involves moving an entire airport, and what comes after that makes international headlines every single week. Hit subscribe right now because mainstream media won't explain what these mega projects really mean for global trade. Only channels like ours connect the dots. Turn on notifications, you'll want to see where this goes. The Mega Manila Subway. Manila has the worst traffic congestion in Southeast Asia. The average commute is 66 minutes for a 12-kilometer distance. Diego Fernandez is 34 years old. He leaves home at 4:30 in the morning to reach his 8 a.m. job. He told me, I spend 25 hours weekly in traffic. That's a part-time job. The solution, 36 kilometers of underground railway. The Philippines' first subway system. The tunnels go 30 to 70 meters below the surface, excavating through soil that's 60% water. The cost was originally $6.2 billion in 2019. It's now $9.4 billion and climbing. 95% of equipment comes from Japan. Each boring machine costs $42 million. During construction, they hit Spanish colonial tunnels from the 1700s. They had to reroute. 3 months lost. The subway was supposed to open in 2025. Now it's 2028. Engineers privately say 2030. But here's the technical achievement. It's earthquake resistant to magnitude 8.2. typhoon-proof flooding systems throughout. 15 stations, each capable of handling 370,000 passengers daily. Maria Santos, the architect, designed the stations with what she calls Filipino heritage modern aesthetic. She told me, "We're not copying Tokyo or London. This is distinctly ours." According to an Asian Development Bank study from 2024, every 1 peso invested generates 3.4 pesos in economic activity. The subway will remove 350,000 cars daily, cutting Metro Manila emissions by 12%. But a 2023 audit found $240 million in unexplained expenses. 2 officials have been charged with corruption. But a subway moves people underground. Our number 2 project moves billions of dollars above water, and it's the reason China and America are having diplomatic meltdowns. South Railway Project, also known as the Luzon Spine. 561 kilometers of high-speed rail from Manila to Baikal, cutting 12-hour journeys to 3.5 hours. Cost, $8.3 billion, entirely Chinese-funded at 1% interest over 30 years. Speed, 160 kilometers per hour, a freight and passenger hybrid system. Construction status, 28% complete. Opening has been delayed from 2026 to 2029 at minimum. The U.S. State Department issued a concern statement about Chinese strategic infrastructure. The worry, the railway passes near military bases. Chinese contractors have access to sensitive locations. Antonio Cruz is 48 years old. He owns hotels in Baikal. He told me, "Tourism here is dying because getting here is torture. This railway saves my business." But here's the debt trap concern. The Philippines now owes China $24 billion in infrastructure loans. That's 18% of external debt. 60% of construction workers are Chinese nationals. Filipino unions are protesting, demanding local jobs for local infrastructure. All signaling and control systems are Chinese-made. Cybersecurity experts are warning of potential backdoors, systems that could be remotely accessed or shut down. I've seen leaked government documents discussing asset seizure scenarios if loans default. What happens if the Philippines can't pay? Does China take control of the railway? The Chinese ambassador to the Philippines responded, "These are commercial loans, not territorial ambitions." Western media hysteria. The environmental destruction is real. The railway is cutting through the Sierra Madre Mountains. 1,200 hectares of rainforest cleared. The local benefit, 89 new stations connecting previously isolated communities. Property values are surging. Economic projection, the railway will add 1.4% to national GDP annually once operational. And here's the military angle nobody talks about openly. In a conflict scenario, this railway could rapidly deploy troops to southern insurgency zones. But even this railway, with all its controversy and scale, doesn't compare to our number 1 project, because that one isn't just changing the Philippines, it's challenging Singapore's 70-year monopoly, and the financial implications are absolutely staggering. We're at the top 2 now, and these aren't just Philippine stories anymore, they're reshaping Asian geopolitics. Before we reveal them, smash that subscribe button because what's coming will make you rethink everything you know about trade routes and power struggles. And here's a question. If your country had to choose between Chinese money and American military protection, which would you pick? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Now, let's get to the project that's causing actual diplomatic incidents. New Clark City. They're building an entirely new capital city from scratch and moving the government out of Manila. 9,450 hectares. A smart city designed for 2 million residents by 2065. Cost, $14 billion for Phase 1, from 2022 to 2035. Projected $83 billion total by 2065. Why are they doing this? Manila is sinking 2 centimeters annually. 40% of the city already sits below sea level. By 2050, flooding will be catastrophic. The location, Clark Freeport, the former U.S. Air Force Base, 80 kilometers north of Manila. This is full smart city technology. 5G throughout the entire city. AI traffic management. 100% renewable energy target. Zero-emission transport only. Construction progress. The National Government Administrative Center is 60% complete. The President's office moves in 2027. 12,000 government workers are being forced to relocate. Housing costs in Clark are 35% higher than Manila. Patricia Gomez is 41, a civil servant. She told me, "I've lived in Manila my entire life. My kids' schools are here. Now government says move or find a new job." Think about the international comparisons. Brasilia in Brazil, Naypyidaw in Myanmar. Both became ghost cities, billions spent on empty buildings and wide roads with no traffic. I've seen the drone footage of the construction. It looks like science fiction. Gleaming towers rising from former military runways. If this succeeds, it shifts the economic gravity of the entire nation northward. 23 multinational corporations have already committed to headquarters relocations. They're following the government. New Clark City is integrated with all the major projects we've discussed. It becomes the hub. The subway connects. The railways terminate there. The new airport is 25 kilometers away. It's built to withstand magnitude 8 earthquakes and category 5 typhoons. But here's a crisis nobody's solved yet. The city needs 450 million liters of water daily. Desalination plants are planned but not yet funded. Land acquisitions are under investigation. Families are claiming forced sales below market value. This is the Philippines admitting that climate change will destroy the current capital. That's the subtext nobody wants to say out loud. The regional impact. If this succeeds, other Asian nations are considering similar moves. Jakarta to Nusantara is already happening in Indonesia. And here's the Singapore angle. New Clark City is being positioned as ASEAN's alternative financial center, directly challenging Singapore's dominance. They've already attracted 3 international banks with tax incentives that undercut Singapore's rates. Timeline reality. Phase 1 was supposed to finish in 2028. Currently 43% complete. Engineers are saying 2031 at the earliest. This single project represents 8% of the Philippines' entire GDP. Think about that. 8% of everything the country produces, poured into one city. So let's be honest about what we just saw. 3 of these projects are behind schedule. 2 might never be completed. 4 are drowning in corruption scandals. But 5 of them are actually happening, transforming the Philippines from an archipelago into an integrated economic powerhouse. This isn't really about railways and airports. It's about whether the Philippines becomes a Chinese client state or stays in the American orbit. The real question, every single project we covered has foreign money attached. Chinese loans, American grants, Japanese investments, Korean contractors. The Philippines is being built by everyone except Filipinos, and that should concern you. Or maybe that's exactly how nations develop. Using foreign capital to build local capacity, then taking control once the infrastructure exists. Britain did it. South Korea did it. China definitely did it. But remember Maria spending 14 hours on buses. Diego losing 25 hours weekly to traffic. Rosa terrified of ferries. These projects, despite the politics, are changing actual lives. So here's what I want to know. If you were the Philippine president, would you take Chinese money with strings attached, or American money with conditions attached? Neither is free. Both come with costs. Tell me in the comments which you'd choose and why, because this isn't theoretical anymore. This is the choice facing dozens of developing nations right now. And if you want to understand which of these mega projects will succeed and which will become expensive failures, you need to subscribe right now because we'll be tracking every one of these over the next 5 years. Hit that notification bell. This story is just beginning. The Philippines is gambling its future on concrete and steel, betting that $180 billion in construction will transform it from a poor archipelago into an Asian tiger economy. We'll know by 2030 if that bet paid off, or if they've just built the world's most expensive monuments to political ambition. Some of these projects will succeed spectacularly. Others will fail dramatically. A few will become corruption scandals that bring down governments. And at least one will change regional trade patterns in ways we can't fully predict yet. The megaprojects are real. The money is being spent. The question isn't whether the Philippines is changing, it's whether that change leads to prosperity or disaster. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one, where we'll reveal which Southeast Asian nation is actually winning the infrastructure race, and the answer will surprise you.